Let's get now a Republican's perspective on President Obama's latest plans to jumpstart the economy. Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah joins us now from Salt Lake City. And Senator, I have to ask, first of all, if you have at least a little bit more confidence or a little bit more optimism now that it looks like the president is willing to play. He's being constructive on tax cuts, extensions, and even some permanent tax cuts.
Well, the two ideas that he has, I'm one of the authors, along with Senator Baucus, of the Research and Development Tax Credit, which we've tried to make permanent over the years. That would be a great step in the right direction. As far as being able to write off equipment purchases, I think that's also a good thing. However, he's going to pay for that by taxing other businesses and, of course, by changing the deferral rules, which means that he's going to tax our multinational corporations overseas. Right now, we have the highest corporate taxes in the world, second only to Japan. And if they do the deferral taxes, no other intelligent country in the world does that. It means that a lot of our major multinational corporations will, as has been the case over the last 10 years, will move overseas, and we won't have them here. So and then he's going to tax the oil and gas industry. Well, that's just another way of raising the taxes on every American by having higher oil and gas prices throughout America. So,
Senator Hatch, let me ask you, though. I mean, I certainly hate paying taxes. Most people do. I'm sure corporations, they do as well. But right. How do we get out of this mess of the last couple of years? And I look at the federal deficit. How do we get out of it without doing some kind of taxation?
Well, we may not be able to, but I'll tell you one thing. With the current Democratic people and all my 34 years of experience, when you have Democrats in power, they'll talk about raising taxes to help balance the budget, and then they'll spend every stinking dime of it. And I've got to tell you, they will never, ever live within their means. They have kept themselves in power, along with their union allies, by spending your money. And frankly, that's the way they do it.
Well, Senator Hatch, I don't think our last president, a Republican, was very constrained in his spending either. It seems that whoever's in power will do as much spending as possible. Maybe we should ask a question: why isn't the tax code thrown out and redone anew? Because I don't mind actually paying my fair share of taxes. I'm sure most people probably don't mind paying what they think they should pay. The problem is that there's so many loopholes, and you talk about, for example, the highest corporate tax code in the world, but a lot of these corporations figure their way around it. Why don't we just redo it?
Well, I agree with you. I think we need to revamp the whole tax code, make it simpler, and make it more fair so that everybody understands who's paying what and why. And if we do that, but I got to tell you, a lot of these people love the tax code the way it is because they can all get special little benefits from it. And frankly, the only way we're going to solve these problems is to cut back on spending. Yeah, the president has created a few jobs with all of this spending and taxing that he's done, and they're almost always public sector jobs. The public sector now has grown from about 1 million employees to almost 2.25 million employees, and it's going up every day. Then you add Obamacare to it. That's a $2.6 trillion spending bill. You add this regulatory reform bill, which is making it so uncertain to the business community that they're afraid to go out and invest.
Well, the business community made a lot of this uncertainty. If you go back a couple of years, I mean, Wall Street specifically created a lot of uncertainty overall.
Well, I heard your earlier comment about the prior administration. Let's understand something. The Democrats took control of Congress in 2007. That's something that's never mentioned. And from that day on, they've been spending and taxing and just driving us right into bankruptcy. And I have to admit, there were things done in the Bush administration that I didn't agree with. For instance, he should have used his veto power during the first 7 years, even against Republican bills. But I got to tell you another thing. I've been in the Senate now 34 years. We've never had a fiscal conservative majority in the Senate because we've always had enough moderate to liberal Republicans who will go with the all-liberal Democrats on spending, and it was very, very difficult. We won battles through great presidential leadership. Reagan, Bush 1, Bush 2, and even President Clinton on occasion, who I think will go down in history as a better president than this one. And I have to say that, since 2007, they've been spending us blind, expanding the federal government, expanding public sector jobs, doing very little to really create jobs.
Let me just jump in here and ask, because President Bush, raised spending on education, No Child Left Behind, raised spending on Medicare and Medicaid with drug benefits. Where would you cut spending specifically, and which departments would you go into, and how much could you lop off?
Well, I think we could do a lot just by freezing spending in the federal government and finding those agencies and small groups and so forth that are spending us blind and cutting them off. What we've got to do, though, is stimulate the price in the small business sector. Now, the president wants to, have taxes cut for those who are under the 3%, the so-called wealthy. However, the knowledge that I have and the studies that we show, and I think everybody basically agrees with it, that 3% of small business happens to be 750,000 small businesses where the jobs are created, and 20 million small business people are going to be affected by that. Now, look, even Mr. Orszag, their former director of OMB, says we should move those tax cuts ahead for another 2 years. I have to say that if I sign up and okay, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
There are a lot of things we should do.
We would love to. We would love to continue this discussion.
There are a lot of things to do. Thank you very much, Senator Orrin Hatch.